Oregon. About 60 miles from Portland. Like I said, I've only been here a few months, and I I it seems nice. I mean, I grew up in Oregon, and then I moved to Idaho, and then I moved to Arizona. So I always miss the trees and the fresh air, the rain. I'm an indoor person, so I like rain. I like looking out the window, going, "Ha, it sucks out there." Yeah, it's all really nice in here. Um, the people here uh, are they have psychological and almost accidental philosophical premises, which are better than in LA. So it makes people much easier to teach. They're in LA. It's weird. You can ask a kid, what's something you want in life? You know what I mean? Now, if you asked me when I was a kid, I'd be like, ice cream right now, or pizza, a PlayStation 2 or something. You know what I mean? But in LA, they and it's like, well, let's see if we can work on it. Would you rather have a pair of Nikes or duct tape wrapped around your feet? Like, oh, Nikes. Oh, so it's not that hard of a decision, actually, is it? Like, it's very strange that they would have all ambition kind of stamped out of them. A house or a cardboard box? Oh, a house. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Anyway, so yeah, no, I really like the students that I do have here are in a much better space that way. In LA, man, I lived in a van for a couple years, and I lived in rehearsal spaces with like managers who like brandish guns, and it was illegal to live there because the state of California is so benevolent. It's probably a federal problem too. That they say that it's substandard living, and so because it's not good enough for me, I'd be thrown out on the street instead. So I'm like trying to keep it a secret, and then hoping I don't get a little letter that goes under the door. And meanwhile, it's like bands playing horrible music 24/7 around me while I'm trying to do stuff, and like roaches and rats, and always taking precautions to keep bed bugs away from other people's rooms to keep them out of my room, and like just and then eating like for when I was in the van, I just ate peanut butter and crackers because I didn't have a fridge or anything, and I went from like saltine crackers to Ritz crackers to bread to like raisin bread and then to bagels over the course of like 2 years upgrading. And then and then when I was living in rehearsal spaces, it was like I was melting cheese in tortillas, throwing some tapatio on it, and that's what I ate every day, which I could still eat. It's good tasting. Shopping at dollar stores, and then stuff happened where like, then the state decided that we were destroying the oceans, and so we had to outlaw plastic bags. And people they pushed it on a platform of like a kind of like on moral grounds. That's the way everybody always puts a chain around your neck. They say it's moral somehow. And so they banned the plastic bags because we were killing dolphins or something. And then once they got the law passed, a week goes by and they bring plastic bags back for 10 cents a bag. And you go, "Oh, it was just a tax all along. Like what happened to your dolphin, Now we'll kill the dolphins for 10 cents." And so, but to me that made a difference. And not just to me, but to like where I was shopping, where like I was like the poorest of the poor, with the exception of people who had drug problems. And in some respect, with the exception of people who had like 5 or 7 kids or something, because those are the kinds of people I'd be seeing shop at the places I'm at. And although I made extremely less money than the people with 5 or 7 kids, they obviously had to spend all that money all the time because it was a bad decision having that many kids. So it's like very difficult to uphold that like an empire you can't afford. But all the same, like then it immediately went from people carrying their groceries out, poor people like me carrying their groceries out in bags, to like wheeling the cart to the car and then load them in individually, cans of soup, cans of bread, or things of bread, and and I didn't have a car, so I would never buy more than I could carry. For that time. I had a car and didn't have a car, and I went through stages. And anyway, the point is like it was a horrible place to live. No, a studio apartment was like 11 or 1200 bucks. That's why I was living in rehearsal spaces for like 500 bucks a month. And the people were, I don't even know where to begin. It's like the people were. I'll just give some examples. If you say you go to some social event and everybody's going to a social event not because they like anyone. In fact, it seems like they have a natural kind of dislike for people. They would say that about me because I'm the weirdo, the bad guy, negative guy. Um, and they're like, no, we love people. Oh, I love hanging out. So I'm a very social person, And everybody's just going rubbing elbows, and they're either looking for someone to sleep with, someone to score drugs from, someone who'll get them a gig, someone who'll introduce them to somebody who'll get them a gig, whatever. And so they'll walk into a room. Oh no, I love to be social, community, and like they put forward all this like they're real. And then they go in and how about the Lakers, and then or or some, like, I'm not a Bush supporter, don't get me wrong, but it's so obnoxious to go in and hear someone say like a Bush joke, because first of all, it was never a joke. It was just an insult that people would laugh at like it was a joke, but which is just dumb and irritating. But the gross part about it was that they were saying things that they already knew, like some kind of unwritten social contract, what the answer would be in response, meaning it'd be agreeable. People are only saying things that will get them in the club, um, and and I just find that kind of gross and selfless and despicable. And yeah, so it's just like take that to an extreme. Life has always kind of been weird for me because I don't smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol or do drugs, and I'm not uh, promiscuous in any way. I It's a very uncool place to be. To be me, you know what I mean? Uncool. I mean, it's the best, but it's considered uncool. Anyway, yeah, and then you watch people around you get more and more successful for going to more and more parties, and you say, "Oh, I'm going to stay home, going to work. I'm going to make the best music I can in the world," and and then you achieve beyond your own expectations of yourself. You do more than you thought you could have, and you do things also thanks to modern technology. Do things that you never would have probably been able to do if you were born, or not born necessarily, but if you were trying this in 10 years before, and think, man, I'm performing miracles here. I'm walking on water, and people aren't impressed, and that hurts your self esteem too, because, um, or maybe not self esteem, but like your ambition. You go, well, shit, man. I'm like, I'm achieving the impossible, and it's not good enough. Then what am I gonna do? Like, what is good enough? And then you kind of like, then when you sit down to create, you're met with this kind of feeling of, well, what difference is it going to make? This kind of like defeatist feeling that is in your subconscious, and you consciously know it doesn't matter, just keep working. And subconsciously, you're like, yeah, but can you really outdo the last one? And then you do, and it didn't make a difference. You go, but can you outdo that one? And then you do, and it doesn't really make a difference. Anyway, so the point is like, this year I'm a little bit disappointed in myself because I'm only going to release one album this year, which is that's probably a good standard. Most people's like one album a year, but I've released two albums a year for since I released my first one. My first one took like 4 or 5 years to make. Um, uh, but it's because I was buying all the equipment, learning all the skills, how to mix and everything, how to make pre-productions. So anyway, yeah, that's what got me out of LA, and I don't know. I feel mixed now about a few things. Like, what do I try to do now? Do I try to enjoy a little bit of every day, or do I continue my crusade of creating good music? Or because it's like a total crusade. It's like more than once in a lifetime I can find myself ending like Joan of Arc. Um, and or do I try to pay bills and possibly get married someday, or like my prerogative has never been growing old. I recognize it'll happen, probably if I don't die sooner than that, but it's not what I've been working towards. Like my goal hasn't been, well, let's just grow, let's just wait until it's over. Kind of, it's not been my approach. My approach has been like just 100,000%, and hopefully something happens and I die before all my teeth fall out, before the shit hits the fan. You know what I mean? Um, but it seems as if perhaps that won't. I don't. You never know. I mean, I'm only 28, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like in 10 years, what could be different? And it really felt that way in LA at that point. So I don't know. I'm in a new skin here. I don't know what I'm doing with my life as much. I know I'm trying to make money. I want to pay rent and stuff. Um, and I know I want to keep making albums, but actually, by the way, if you happen to know any singers, I'm making an album right now. It's got Morgan Ogren on drums, who's very prestigious, very interesting drummer. It's supposed to have Neil Fountain on bass. He hasn't sent any tracks yet, but he's a fan of my music, which is flattering because he's the best bass player I've ever known. And yeah, and then I need vocals, but it's like 4-part harmonies. It's difficult. They have to be able to record themselves. I would love to have 2 males and 2 females, but I'll be happy with one of anything who can do all 4 parts. But yeah, that's I need vocals for that album, and I got the feeling that my experience has been that I can't really work with other people. Not out of dislike for them, but just in accountability. People say they'll do things and they don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's not to mention the harder it is, the more unlikely that they'll do it. But yeah, if you happen to know anybody, dude, let them know. Ugh.